Hello my dear viewers and welcome back, and today we're gonna talk some anime. Now, I love anime. It's one of my three big passions. I watch it, I study it, and I collect it. It is something I really love, and I even work on scripts for anime in my free time that I hope to one day possibly be able to make into an actual anime series. So I really love it, and one thing that I've always thought about for quite some time is, have you ever had those times where there's an anime out there that a lot of people really seem to love, it's really popular or has a huge cult following, just almost everyone seems to love it, but for some reason you don't love it? You watch it multiple times, you get the perspective of fans, and you just can't get into it? Well, that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the anime that I hate, but everyone else seems to love for one reason or another. Now, I want to offer a quick little disclaimer. Now, this should be a no shit situation, but this is my opinion, and this isn't necessarily a list of the worst anime. In fact, some of the anime on this list are actually pretty good, or at the very least watchable. It's just that for one reason or another, I can't get into them. Now, I would most certainly love to like some of these anime, because I of course don't want to hate any anime. I want to go into any anime hoping for it to be good, and I just can't with some of these anime. And if you love some of these anime, more power to you. I'm happy you can love them when I can't. Now, while there are a small minority of anime I genuinely hate, which we will talk about on this list, try not to take the title too seriously. This isn't me being a hater, this is just me kind of putting my thoughts out there and seeing how my taste in anime can differ from your taste in anime. So, with that being said, let's get started with the 10 anime I hate that everyone else seems to love. And if this list does well, I might do the same thing but reverse. Top 10 anime I like that everyone else seems to hate, or I might do the same thing with video games or movies. But let's get started.
Wow, that girl's hot.
That's a guy.
That other guy's handsome.
That's a girl.
That cat is cute.
That's a dog.
What is everything?
Number 10, Dragon Ball Z. Now this one is really low on the list because I actually do understand why people love this anime so much. And I will admit, when I was younger, I used to love this anime too. It was one of the anime I watched during the earlier days when I was getting into anime, and at the time, I loved it. I thought it was really cool, and I liked the action at the time. It was something I had not experienced before, because at this point in my life, the only other anime I had seen was Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Beyblade, and Naruto. However, as I started watching more anime, I just found it really hard to come back to Dragon Ball Z, because Dragon Ball Z is one of those anime that, yes, I get why people like it. It's one of the big four, holy big four shonen anime. I get that. You got the whole Holy Trinity thing. It's been around since the 80s. It was one of the anime that helped bring anime to the West and make it popular. However, I think that that's all Dragon Ball Z has done, because I just don't think that Dragon Ball Z has aged all that well, because while Akira Toriyama is good at setting up action sequences to a degree, he is not very good at writing stories. And that's my problem. I don't find Akira Toriyama's stories very compelling. I find them very generic and cliche and nothing more than just a setup to have awesome action. That's all I really see. Rarely ever have I been compelled by a storyline in Dragon Ball Z. So it doesn't really do much for me, and Dragon Ball Z is one of those anime that really needs to die. Like, I get it, a lot of people love it, and it's been around for a long time, but you can't keep the same thing going for so many years. Eventually, you gotta just let it die and move on to something different. I can't help but to feel sorry for Akira Toriyama because he's basically trapped in this purgatory of only being able to work on Dragon Ball Z and maybe Dragon Quest on occasion, and he's not able to do much else beyond that or move on to something different because the fans insist on him continuing a story that should have ended a long time ago. I dropped out of Dragon Ball Z after the Cell Saga because Dragon Ball Z at that point basically became a broken record to me. It was the same shit over and over and over again. It's the same storyline with the same developments. All Toriyama does is just change the variables around a little bit. I mean, how many times does he repeat the same plot points over and over and over again before people finally get sick of it? I mean, I just don't like Dragon Ball Z. While I used to be a fan of this anime, I can't stand it anymore. Please, Dragon Ball Z fans, just let Dragon Ball Z die. Let Akira Toriyama work on something else. If Dragon Ball Z just ended after the Frieza or Cell arc, I would look back at it as an important piece of anime history rather than an overrated, overhyped anime that has long stayed its welcome. Dragon Ball, to me, is the anime equivalent of The Simpsons.
Wow, that girl's hot.
That's a guy.
That other guy's handsome.
That's a girl.
That cat is cute.
That's a dog.
What is everything?
Number 9, Naruto. Now, as I mentioned before, this is actually one of the first anime I ever saw. And while when I was younger, I did think it was cool, as I started watching more anime similar to that of Dragon Ball Z, I just couldn't really come back to it. Actually, it never even got that far, because while I was once a fan of Dragon Ball Z, I never once considered myself a Naruto fan because no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't get into it. Now, there are some elements of Naruto that I like, which is why it's so low on the list. I love the music. It's really good. Naruto has one of the best soundtracks in anime history. I love the action. Studio Pierrot does a good job. If there's one thing Studio Pierrot knows how to do, it's action. The action is always amazing, and it's always well animated, and I absolutely adore it. I actually think the action in Naruto is superior to the action in Dragon Ball Z, if I'm being perfectly honest. And while that's all well and good, it's just that everything else about it, I don't know, I can't get into it. And I've tried multiple times. I once tried to go back and watch Naruto Shippuden and try to see if I can get into it after so many years, and I just couldn't. I feel that the characters are mostly frustrating and not very interesting. I mean, I did like Kimimaro. I thought Gaara was okay, and Lee is a good character, but most of the characters, they either just don't interest me, or in the case of Naruto or Sasuke, they're just outright annoying to put up with. And I just can't handle them because they're the main characters. They're the main focus, and when I'm not invested in your main characters, it becomes hard to be invested in what's going on. I remember I hated the protagonists in Naruto so much that I ended up rooting for some of the villains like Kimimaro because I found them to be far more compelling and interesting than Naruto. And another thing that's always bugged me is the pacing. I hated how they will bring the anime to a screeching halt just so Naruto can go learn some technique. This is what happened to me when I tried to rewatch Shippuden. I get to the part where Naruto is learning Winjutsu, and the whole fucking anime just comes to a screeching halt and nothing is happening. And you just think this is going to last for maybe like one episode. No, it goes on and on and on and on, and I'm so fucking bored. And by the time I get to any action, I'm just too bored to give a shit. And I hate that aspect of Naruto, that while it does have good action, it takes forever to get to that action, and it's hard for me to be invested in the action when I'm not invested in the vast majority of the characters. So it's just one of those anime that no matter how hard I try, I just can't get into it, even though there are some elements of it that I like. But again, I do understand why people like Naruto. I really do. However, I find Naruto to be a very hypocritical anime. And there's also a video out there called Naruto the Self-Made Hypocrite that is very well made and explains a lot of the reasons why I think Naruto isn't as good as some people think, but I won't get into that here. This is just my perspective on how I feel about Naruto, but if you are interested, I'll leave that in the description.
Wow, that girl's hot.
That's a guy.
That other guy's handsome.
That's a girl.
That cat is cute.
That's a dog.
What is everything?
Number 8, Princess Tutu. Now we get into the territory of the anime that I actually don't understand what people see in them. This is one of those anime that all I can think is, why? Like, maybe it's not for me, I don't know, but I have a funny story about this anime. So when I was in high school, I was a part of an anime club, and we had this lock-in thing where we basically had the whole school, the anime club had the whole school for an entire weekend, and we did a bunch of stuff. And one day we were watching anime, and one of the anime that was chosen was Princess Tutu for some reason, and I had to watch it because I didn't really have much of a choice. And I watched about, I want to say 10 episodes, maybe more, and I actually ended up passing out. No joke, this is one of the only anime I can think of that actually physically put me to sleep. It is boring, so fucking boring, I just can't get into it. I don't like the setup, I'm not really into the whole ballet aspect of it, like the fact that all these so-called action sequences are just ballet sequences and the main character just talking to someone. I just don't get it, and the story is really, really stupid. It's about a duck that turns into a human girl that's trying to fall in love with a prince. I mean, I know anime is known for being weird, but that's just the kind of weird where all I can think is, that's just stupid. Now, from what I understand, I think this is meant to be part of the Mahou Shoujo genre, I think, and they like to have the whole thing of animals that turn into humans or something like that. I get that. I just don't really like the whole setup. I'm not invested in the main character. I don't find her very interesting. I find the so-called action boring. There's just nothing here for me. And the fact that, from what I understand, one of the main focuses of this anime is a romance, I can be very picky when it comes to romance because I find all too often romances can be very bad because they rely on certain tropes and cliches that just aren't interesting, and rarely ever do I see romance written well at all. So there's just nothing here that I can think of that I like. I don't like the music. I find it boring. I'm not invested in any of the main characters. The action sequences I barely even classify as action sequences, and this is the first anime to ever put me to sleep. I would rather have a painfully bad anime that would just piss me off and give me a lot to talk about versus a boring anime that does nothing for me. I will say this right here, it's much worse to be boring than to be bad, because at least if the anime was bad, it would at least give me something to talk about. This does not.
Wow, that girl's hot.
That's a guy.
That other guy's handsome.
That's a girl.
That cat is cute.
That's a dog.
What is everything?
Number 7, Clanad. Ever seen a movie on the Lifetime channel? Then you've seen this anime. I'm not joking that this anime, the way it's written, it honestly feels like something you would see on the Lifetime channel. It's one of those anime that just tries, due to it being a slice of life, it tries too much to be like reality, and as a result, everything is just so mundane and boring. And I hate that I'm going to have to repeat that whole boring argument with some of these anime, but that's honestly how I feel with some of them. Clanad was just something that there was nothing there to interest me. all the characters were generic and mundane. While sure, none of them were technically badly written, I didn't exactly find them interesting, and I wasn't really invested in anything. I don't like the whole school setup. I feel it's cliche and overdone. I don't like the lifetime level drama that happens in this anime. The music does nothing for me. And I've never really been the biggest fan of slice of life anime in general. My main problem with slice of life anime is I often go to anime to escape the mundane reality of real life. So I don't really understand the point of escaping the mundane reality of real life to a anime that's about the mundane reality of real life. But the main thing that does it for me is how this anime is always often labeled as the saddest anime ever made. It makes everyone cry. And I don't get it. The whole death of Nagisa and the child, it's not really all that sad. It really isn't. And especially once you find out that Nagisa has a disease and that the child has the very same disease, you know exactly where it's going. So it's not really all that surprising, and you have time to prepare yourself. Not only that, but the ending is so nonsensical and so freaking ambiguous. It's feels like a Disney ending that borderlines on theory bait at best, and the ending to Clanad is such bullshit. There's theory videos out there that try to logically explain it, and again, it's all just so nonsensical. And no, the death of Nagisa is not sad. Do you understand me, anime community? Next anime.
Wow, that girl's hot.
That's a guy.
That other guy's handsome.
That's a girl.
That cat is cute.
That's a dog.
What is everything?
Number 6, Future Diary. Now, this is one of the anime I find absolutely frustrating. Now, with the other anime I just mentioned, I can somewhat see what people like in them, and can admit that some of my reasons for not liking it are a little bit more personal, or maybe just not my taste. But this anime is the exception, because this is one I cannot fathom why so many people love it. It's so bad. This is a very poorly written anime that I could actually make a whole review on why this anime alone is terrible. But let's try to keep this concise. Now, I will be honest, when I first watched Future Diary, I actually thought it was good. But then, when I watched it a second time, and I actually sat down and thought about it, I thought to myself, wait a second, this doesn't make no sense. These characters don't make sense. This writing is bullshit. And then I started watching other reviews of it, and other people started noticing the same criticisms I did, so I thought, okay, I'm not crazy, it's not just me. And while I will admit this anime had a ton of potential, it is completely wasted. This is one of those anime where you're constantly told you need to turn off your brain to enjoy it. I'm sorry, but if I have to turn off my brain to enjoy something, that's a bad sign. That means you're telling me that the anime is so fucking stupid that if I actually think about it, then it's not going to make any sense, or I won't be able to enjoy it. And it boggles my mind how people don't realize that a problem. And the characters are stupid and poorly written, and they are extremely inconsistent, especially in regards to Yuki, and that's a huge problem because Yuki is your main fucking character, and he's inconsistent and stupid. Nothing he does makes any sense. And that can be said for a lot of the other characters, either that or they just offer nothing at all and are literally just there to die or blend into the background. There is very little world building. The entire world feels empty and lifeless outside of the main characters. Like, there's only ever people there when it's convenient. Like, it doesn't feel like there's any kind of world outside of the main characters. And the action, while it may be decent, it's not really anything too spectacular. The concept is interesting, and I really wanted this anime to be good because I'm a huge fan of the Battle Royale concept, and I loved the Battle Royale movie, and I wanted it to be good, but any intrigue they had, they just pissed away. And the main romance between Yuki and Yuno is just whatever. It's just kind of forced, and it makes no sense like why Yuno is into Yuki other than the fact that he's yandere bait because he's a little sissy bitch that can't stand up for himself, and Yuno is such a overrated fucking yandere. I actually might want to make a video on why she's so overrated. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. Yuno is not the best yandere ever made, and she's barely even a compelling character. I'm just gonna say it. Lucy is the true queen of yandere. However, I'll save that for another discussion. But yeah, Lucy is better. Fight me on that, Future Diary fans. And there's just other things about this anime that I just... Like, for example, there's a scene where a character throws a grenade. We get a shot of the grenade. In the next shot, we see the grenade exploding. And then in the next shot, where we're seeing the grenade explode, the two characters are outside of the building, miles away on a fucking hill. Hello? Continuity, where are you? Like, it's just so fucking bad. And if you like this anime, I really can't understand what you see in it. It's so bad. The only thing I can say is the music is good and I like the opening. However, the opening was made by an actual talented band, so I don't even know if I can give Future Diary that much.
Wow, that girl's hot.
That's a guy.
That other guy's handsome.
That's a girl.
That cat is cute.
That's a dog.
What is everything?
Number 5, Fairy Tail. Yet another overrated piece of shit that is loved by mainstream audiences. For what reason, I do not fully understand. I really don't get this anime. I mean, okay, it is a gateway anime. I can get why, if this was your first anime, you could get into it. But it's really not all that good. This is one of those anime that, at its best, is just cliche. But at its worst, it's mind-numbingly retarded. Like, most of the characters are just completely annoying or worthless. The only characters I could think of that are even worth half a shit is Wendy, Juvia, and maybe Mara Jade. The villains are all forgettable and stock, with the exception of maybe the main antagonist, but even then, there's not really much to him. The storyline is often so bad that Fairy Tail will depend on fan service to hide from the lack of a decent script. So whenever something comes in the script that makes no sense or is stupid or poorly written, they will just shove fan service in your face. Now, I don't think that fan service is inherently a problem, but when you use fan service similar to how ecchi anime use it, and you use it to hide poor writing, that's not good. That is a bad writing technique. And another problem with this anime is it basically has no stakes to it, because at no point do the villains ever pose any threat to the main characters. You know they're gonna win, and even if the heroes do temporarily get their ass kicked, they're going to, out of nowhere, become strong enough to take the villain down, or someone is going to show up out of nowhere to save them at the last minute, and it's just not very interesting. And the soundtrack is mostly forgettable. There's only one song in this entire soundtrack that's worth half a shit, and that's Evil Earth Sound. Outside of that, the soundtrack is completely worthless. And it goes without saying, the main characters are mind-numbingly frustrating. Natsu and Gray have to be two of the most annoying, unintentionally gay characters ever made. Urza is a generic badass trope that tries way too hard to be the cool badass character. Fucking Lucy is completely worthless and does nothing. Happy is a fucking Chopper ripoff. So on and so forth. I just don't understand what people see in this. I see it as a guilty pleasure gateway anime at best, and even that would be giving it a little bit too much credit.
Wow, that girl's hot.
That's a guy.
That other guy's handsome.
That's a girl.
That cat is cute.
That's a dog.
What is everything?
Number 4, Attack on Titan. Now, this is an anime that's very difficult for me to talk about, because of all the anime on this list, this one is probably the best, and I could actually recommend you watching it. The issue is that when I was in high school, and even past this, everyone kept telling me that Attack on Titan is the best anime ever. You gotta watch it, it's a masterpiece, it's so good. I was constantly getting hammered into my head that this was the best anime ever. I would go on YouTube, I would see YouTubers giving it all kinds of fake awards and stuff, so I finally get around to watching it. I watched the entire first season, and I've even read some of the manga, and I don't get it. I mean, I wouldn't really say it's a bad anime, but I don't get the hype. In fact, if anything, I would say that this right here is a perfect example of why I hate hype culture, because hype culture ruined this anime for me. Now, I get that the fans and hype culture is not fully the anime's fault. However, even outside of that, there are elements of this anime that just don't really do much for me. I don't really like characters, especially in regards to Eren. I think he's a very frustrating character. I've never been a big fan of the whole hot-headed teen who's just always pissed off about everything. I felt that his death scene was completely wasted. I actually think it would have been more shocking if Eren just stayed dead, but that's besides the point. I find most of the characters to be annoying in the sense that everyone is so uselessly afraid. Like, they're so terrified of these titans that they just become little bitches about it, and no one wants to fight them, even though you have these hardened soldiers that are trained specifically to kill titans. They're scared by them so much that they won't do anything. And they're oftentimes just there for no other reason than to die, because killing off characters is really shocking, right? Well, no, when you don't care about most of the characters, or they're literally just there just to die, then it does nothing for me. And I don't really find the story all that compelling. I think it's just basically another apocalypse, humanity on the brink of extinction thing, except instead of just zombies, this time it's titans. And in regards to the titans, I don't like the design of the titans. Now, the design isn't bad, it's just that these things are supposed to be very scary, and I don't find them scary. In fact, I find them laughable. It's hard for me to be afraid of these things when they're just so goofy. Now, I get that horror to an extent can be subjective, but nothing about these titans screams horror to me. The only Titan that I kind of liked was the Armored Titan, because he had kind of a cool design, but the Armored Titan doesn't show up until way later into the second season, so that doesn't help. I'm not a big fan of the female Titan. I don't find her to be a very compelling villain at all, and other elements of it that I just don't like that are very tiny. While the animation for the most part is really good, I don't know if it's just me, but it feels like there's just this choppy outline around the characters that look like they're stickers or something like that. I don't know how to explain it. There's like this black outline around the characters, And I'm not certain if that's a stylistic choice or not, but something about it just drives me nuts. I don't really like the action. While everyone always says Attack on Titan has amazing action, it mostly boils down to Titan fist fights, which aren't really all that interesting. I mean, when you see some of the incredible, unique action sequences other anime have given us, like Bleach and Fate and many others, it just doesn't really do much for me. And I find the whole Spider-Man foo shit, I don't know what you want to call it, but I just find it as an attempt to like, oh, let's remind people of Spider-Man because they really like that. And I get that it's a unique way to have the character, to feel like you're soaring through the air with the characters and watching them kill these titans in an interesting, unique way. I get that. It just doesn't really do it for me. Another thing I really don't like about this anime is the humor. The humor is absolutely cringy. When I saw that infamous potato scene, I literally face-palmed so hard, I felt so embarrassed. Every time there's an attempt at humor, it does absolutely nothing for me. And it sucks. And everyone always told me, oh, well, just wait till you get to the basement reveal. It gets really good when it gets to the basement reveal. Okay, I read the manga, got to the basement reveal, and then it got brought to my attention that it was a red herring, and there's actually more to the story than just that. And I was actually told by many of the fans that I'm an idiot for thinking that Season 1 was ever supposed to be good. And I find the fans of Attack on Titan to be extremely pretentious. And while this anime does have some interesting themes, I don't think that themes are a substitute for some of the elements of this anime that I feel don't work or just don't entertain me. And most of the first season was very boring for me. While it didn't put me to sleep like Princess Tutu, I wasn't exactly interested either. And the fans are very frustrating, because they say, oh, Season 1 is not supposed to be good. Okay, so when is it supposed to be good? Because I ran into the same problem with other anime. This reminds me of the people who defend Final Fantasy XIII by saying, oh, well, after 20 hours, when you get to Grand Pulse, the game gets good. Fuck that. Why can't the game be good right now? Same with Attack on Titan. Why should I have to wait a full season or even 2, because these fans can never be consistent, for the anime to get good? When is it supposed to get good? Now, I get that this is a good anime and that people like it. To me, this is kind of like the Citizen Kane of anime for me. A lot of people like it. They say it's a very good anime, groundbreaking and all that stuff. I just don't really see it. I see it as a maybe 6 or 7 out of 10. I mean, not a bad anime, but I don't think it's this masterpiece that it's built up to be.
Wow, that girl's hot.
That's a guy.
That other guy's handsome.
That's a girl.
That cat is cute.
That's a dog.
What is everything?
Number 3, Akame ga Kill. This anime is hot fucking garbage. Now, this is an actual anime that I consider to be shit. While all the other anime on this list, you could find redeeming qualities in them, or they are good and they just don't personally fit my taste. With these next 3 anime, it is very hard for me to understand why anyone could like these anime because they're so bad. And that is especially the case with Akame ga Kill. There is so much wrong with this anime. I could make an entire review of it, but I'll try to keep this quick. So, Akame ga Kill is a anime with shit world building. Seriously, the main character's village is simply called The Village. Nothing more to it than that. The Empire is just simply called the Empire's capital. Wow, real imaginative, guys. And everywhere is just so freaking bland. Like, there's literally, in one episode, a random stadium in the middle of the woods with no fucking context. The world building is shit. The characters are all one-note tropes with nothing to them. Tatsumi has to be the most bland, boring hunk of wood I've ever seen. His design is boring. There's nothing about him that stands out. His character, he barely even has a character. He's just some douchebag in a sweater carrying around a sword who wants to raise money for his village, and that's the only context we're ever given. Akame is just some Kundere assassin type. The pink-haired girl is some pint-sized tsundere, so on and so forth. There is a character in this anime who literally, his whole thing is he's a neat freak that likes to clean stuff. The characters are terrible. And the reason why it's a problem is because these characters are written like horror movie cannon fodder, yet we're supposed to care when these characters die. But not only are they one-note tropes, but the way in which they die is extremely predictable. Every time a character dies, about a few minutes before their death, we're given their backstory and then they die. It's difficult to care about a character when you give their backstory and then you kill them immediately. How am I supposed to care for that character? It does nothing when you do that. It's hard to get invested in the character. And the most frustrating thing about it is people would say that Akame got killed, like Game of Thrones, because the characters die. Like, really? Is mainstream anime just so pussyfoot with killing off its characters that people think that this is groundbreaking and compelling just because characters die? It doesn't matter if a character dies if you don't give a shit about that character or they're not interesting. These characters are written like horror movie cannon fodder, so it's hard to give a shit when they fucking die. And these characters are oftentimes moronic. Like, the only time the heroes ever succeed against the villains is because the villains are just fucking stupid. So anytime the bad guys have the upper hand against the heroes only get out alive because the villains just do something stupid instead of just killing the characters or taking an advantage when they have something against them. And whenever it comes to their powers, they're so poorly explained that it often has to rely on absolute bullshit to explain why this villain with some overpowered ability is suddenly able to be defeated by the main characters, and they can't even keep with the rules and logic of the fantasy world that they're setting up. It just feels like they make up the rules as they go along. This anime tries way too hard to be a seinen, and it fails. It wants so badly to be Berserk, but it fails because it's not Berserk, because it's missing the brilliant writing of Berserk, which it does not have. The only thing in this anime that's good, the one thing that's good, is one single music track that is beautiful. That's it. Outside of that, it's all shit. The animation is not much better. The animation is often animated in such a way to where there's very little action because they'll either just cut away or it's just a bunch of like stills or something. So you can't even enjoy the so-called action. So it's just one of those anime I really don't get how you can like this. And what I find funny is even fans of the manga do not like this anime, which tells me everything. This anime sucks so hard, even people who like the manga don't even like it. What does that tell you about this anime?
Wow, that girl's hot.
That's a guy.
That other guy's handsome.
That's a girl.
That cat is cute.
That's a dog.
What is everything?
Number 2, Fate Khaled. Now, I love the Fate franchise. I think it's one of the best franchises of all time, point blank period, anime, video game, or otherwise. And as much as I love Fate, I hate this spin-off. Fate Khaled is not only the worst Fate adaptation of all time, but it's also one of the worst spin-offs of all time. Fate Khaled is the very reason why whenever I hear about an anime spin-off, I immediately become worried because I'm afraid it will end up like this. And Everybody loves this anime, and the sick part is, I know why people like this anime, and I fucking despise it. People love it because it has all kinds of fan service and bullshit like that. It's basically Fairy Tail but cranked up to 10. It's an ecchi anime that's not an ecchi anime, and I hate it for that. Nothing that made Fate good or interesting is here. None of Nasu's brilliant writing is here. The action sequences pale in comparison to the action sequences that we got in Fate Zero and Fate Stay Night. The music, while is okay, the music pales in comparison to the brilliance of Yuki Kadra. The characters are infuriating. All the characters are nothing more than stolen characters, beloved characters from Fate Stay Night, and they are changed. They take one aspect of their character and they crank it up to 10, and then they make it their only character attribute. A simple example of this is Rin, who had tsundere elements to her character. They just take that tsundere part of her and they make it her entire character in Fate Khaled. None of the other stuff that made Rin an interesting character is there. And the way they rape the characters is absolutely enraging. I hate what they do with Ilia. They take one of the best characters from Fate, a very tragic, compelling character, and they make her into just some generic magical girl who goes to school and ends up in all kinds of magical girl shenanigans, because that's what this is. It's a shitty, generic, fucking magical girl anime with the Fate name and stolen concepts, and I can't stand it. And I hate this excuse that is always used by Fate Khaled fans. Well, the original Fate Stay Night novel was an arrow gorge, so therefore it would make perfect sense for Fate Khaled to be filled to the brim with perverted fan service. First off, that's not true, because while the original Fate Stay Night did have sex scenes, they were not the primary focus. It was still a novel that told a story with lore. Yeah, there's a few sex scenes in it, but they're not the main focus. Here, the fan service is the main focus, and it's always forced and at the expense of another character. Ilia, a character who is never alluded to ever being a lesbian or bisexual at any point, is constantly put in lesbian situations, and it makes no sense. Don't get me started on Kuro. I already addressed in my top 10 worst lesbian characters why she makes no fucking sense, and I'm not going to get into her here. And Miyu is a boring blank slate with nothing to her. This anime is written like a fucking glorified fanfiction, because that's what it is. Some schmuck who wrote Fate Daijoshis made this garbage. Somehow it got the attention of Nasu, and now it's considered a part of the Fate universe. Fuck me, and fuck this anime.
Wow, that girl's hot.
That's a guy.
That other guy's handsome.
That's a girl.
That cat is cute.
That's a dog.
What is everything?
Number 1, Sword Art Online. Anyone who is very familiar with me, or even my channel, probably predicted this one, but this has always been an anime that has pissed me off for the longest time, and to this day, it's still loved by so many, and I don't understand why. Sword Art Online is one of the most infamously polarizing anime of all time. Yeah, there are people out there that hate it like me, but there are people that love it, and I'm sorry, but if you like Sword Art Online, I don't know what the fuck you see in this anime. This is one of the all-time worst anime. It is not well written, the characters are a fucking joke. An example of how bad the character writing is, the writer Reki Kawahara himself admitted that the way he writ his female characters was offensive, and even apologized for it. So you have the writer himself admitting he didn't know how to write women characters, and the rest of his characters aren't much better. The story and concept is bullshit. One thing I always hate about Sword Art Online is how people try to say that it had an interesting concept. No, it didn't. The concept was done to death before Sword Art Online ever thought of it. Log Horizon, Stay Alive, Ben 10, hell, even Fairly Odd Parents had a fucking episode where they did the whole, if you die in the game, you die for real. It is not interesting. It is not a new concept, and it's fucking stupid, and the way it's written is fucking nonsensical. The main villain is so bad he has to cheat to beat the main character and forgets his fucking motivation. That's how bad he is. And don't get me started on Kirito, who is an overpowered Gary Stu who it just does whatever the writer wants him to do. He's a fucking tool. He's not a character. He's just a fucking piece of shit Gary Stu, and I fucking hate it. I hate everything about his character. There's nothing to Kirito. The romance is painfully, badly, poorly written. Even though this anime had A1 Pictures and Yuki Kadra at its side, it still looks terrible. The soundtrack in this is probably the worst Yuki Kadra has ever done. It is so cringy that one of the songs is literally just the lyrics, coffee, soda, repeated. It's so fucking bad. And A1 Pictures, their talent is completely wasted on this. I don't know why A1 Pictures always chooses the worst fucking scripts to animate. There is nothing good here. The fight scenes are not good because whenever a fight scene happens, it is either too close to the point where you can't see what's going on, or it's too far away and blocked by shitty effects so you can't see what's happening. The game elements are insulting. If you are a gamer, how can you like Sword Art Online? Because this was written by a person who knows nothing about video games. I can go into an entire video alone on why Sword Art Online makes no sense as a video game, and if it was a real video game, it would be one of the worst video games of all time. There's just I can't think of a single thing that is worth a damn in this anime. It's all so bad. I don't know why people like it. To this day, I can never ever understand what people see in this pile of shit, even as a guilty pleasure. This is less than even bottom of the fucking barrel. Like, this is less than even being a fan of the live action Resident Evil movies. I cannot fathom why this anime has a fan base. I just can't. I don't want to say anything more about Sword Art Online because I don't want to fly off into a rant, but I will save all that pent-up rage for the day when I ever review this anime, which I am saving for a rainy day. So, what do you think of these anime? Do you have any anime that you don't like, but other people seem to love for whatever reason? If so, share. Let's share each other's perspectives. I find it very interesting to hear perspectives that are not your own. Let me know what you think of these anime, and I'll see you guys around next time.